Welcome to Planning for iPhone Videos. We've developed this video checklist to help you plan and execute any live stream or edited video that you might want to create. The top of the video checklist deals with what to do before your shoot, as well as what to do during your shoot itself. Here are a couple of tips. So when you're planning before the shoot, you want to take into consideration the time. Sunlight closest to sunset and sunrise is usually the most beautiful. So the 2-hour portion before sunset is generally what's recommended, unless you want to get up early and then you want to do that within 2 hours of sunrise. And I'll go over that in more detail in a minute. If you're filming outdoors, use soft-soled shoes like running shoes. This is going to help make your walking shots look smoother. Avoid black clothing. It's very difficult for the camera to pick up. And thin line clothing can also create weird patterns based on how the camera sensor interprets what it's seeing. If you're doing a live stream video or walkthrough video, you really do want to plan the pathway through the property before filming. So that's knowing where you're going to begin, where you're going to move through, and how you're going to move through, and where you're going to end. Of course, just like a showing of a property, you want to turn the lights on, open the doors, and tidy up any surfaces that might need tidied beforehand. If you're going to shoot for Instagram or for Facebook, we recommend holding the camera in portrait mode. It's important to hold it in this mode when you start the video, all the way through the video, and at the end. If you were to start, for example, in this video on Instagram Live and then turn the camera, you're going to run into trouble. So keep it in that same orientation throughout the filming and even before the filming begins. If you're shooting for a website video, in most cases, you're going to want to turn into landscape or sideways mode instead. The tips for during the shoot, I will go through in more detail in this video as well as further videos that you can check out. The next step is to identify key elements of the property that you want to show. So in this case, we have a condo with probably a very nice view. So we might think that the view from the balcony is one of the key selling features. Perhaps the view from the bedroom is also beautiful as well. We want to keep moving through the property and determining where there might be points of interest. Maybe there's a nice stove or a nice fridge. Perhaps there's an interesting Murphy bed table combo in the den. Perhaps this balcony is also of interest. The his and her sinks, and there's a nice tiled shower, for example. Once we know what those one or two key elements are in each room, and we've identified those, then we can plan the trajectory of walking through the property. In this case, I'm going to suggest that we're going to start out here with the view and an introduction, move through the property into the den, demonstrate the area of the den, then move into the kitchen, take a look at that stove and fridge, and then move through the dining room. Perhaps there's an interesting chandelier here. Take a panoramic view of the living room, dining room, and view, and then continue into the bedroom, into the walk-in closet, and so on. You get the idea. The most important thing to note here is that we are moving in a forward direction at all times. If we're stopping, we're doing a small loop or rotation of the camera here, and then moving forward at the end of that rotation. I'll cover that in other videos in more detail, but this is going to help create a nice smooth forward momentum throughout your live stream or edited video. To help you plan that, the middle part of the video checklist goes over all of the key areas where you're going to do your introduction. Perhaps you're going to focus on the kitchen or the living room or the dining room, and this is the suggested ordering of the video. Now, you might disagree. You might believe, for example, the balcony, as in our case, is the most important. And so on the right-hand side here, we have a space for you to order how you want to actually do the edit or the live stream. So in your planning portion, you can go through and identify, okay, first I want to go to the balcony or the backyard, and then I want to go into, let's say, the kitchen, then the dining room, and so on. So you can really create your trajectory. At least the first few steps will help you get the video off to a great start. Additionally, those focal points that we're talking about can be identified here, And it's really recommended not to script the whole video. This video isn't scripted that you're listening to right now. You just want to have key bullet points that you can expand on in order to make the speaking sound natural, relaxed, and unrehearsed. And this is really important for the effectiveness of your video. There's also space here to identify the type of camera movement. For example, a pan or a tilt. Camera movements aren't going to be spoken about in great detail in this video, but they are handled in another video that you can check out. Lastly on the checklist is the editing portion. So this goes over ensuring that you're trimming the clips specifically to the beat of the music, if possible. This doesn't apply to live streams, but would apply to any edited promotional video. And depending on the type of video, we've identified for you how often make cuts and how long the total video should be. Moving into lighting now, I want to help you make the best use of available light. So I've taken the selfie in front of a bright window, and I've seen many videos that follow this same pattern. Because the view is beautiful and we're trying to show that off, people often stand like this. The issue is that the camera doesn't deal well with a bright background and a poorly lit subject. Where you're used to seeing this very well balanced is in real estate photos where actually 2, 3, 5, sometimes 7 images have been merged. So you get a perfectly bright interior and a perfectly bright exterior. In video, you're really not going to have that luxury. You have to choose. Am I showing outside well? Am I showing myself well? Am I showing the interior of the property well? And you do have to make a choice at any given moment. So standing in the same place, I turned around and took the same photo, and now you can see the windows in front of me and my face is really brightly lit. My skin complexion now looks much nicer than in the other images. However, the downside is what's behind me is now very dark. So we're always making a decision between lighting ourselves and lighting the property. My recommendation is to begin and end with lighting yourself. So if you're speaking into the camera, you want to create an opportunity for the viewer to connect with you. So it's best that you're lit well as you do the selfie video portion, speaking to the camera, and then either turn the camera around or press the camera flip button and begin to film the property. This will help to make sure that whatever you're looking at is properly exposed. You can also take similar video or photos near sunset. You can see this is much more balanced out, but still my skin isn't properly exposed. The version where I face towards the window looks much better. If you do want to accomplish this, there's only one way to do that, and that's by adding lighting. You can buy professional lighting from places like Amazon or Henry's. A brand I would recommend that's relatively inexpensive but effective is Falcon Eyes. But in this case, I achieved this look using a regular lamp, and I'll show that lamp in a second. So here it is. This is essentially what the lamp looks like. I'm using a cool white or daylight light bulb. This is critical. If you use a soft white light bulb, you're going to get a yellow tone or even red tone on your face. So that is important. And the lamp shade itself needs to be shined through. This is going to help to diffuse a light. If you don't have a lamp that looks like this, you can use a lamp that will shine off either the ceiling and then bounce down on you, or off of a wall and then bounce back onto you, rather than shining a light directly in your face, which will not look great. In an ideal world, the lamp would be tall enough to be slightly over your head in order to create directional lighting. And I'll show you that. So here, there is shadow on this side of my face. This tells you that the light is coming from this direction. The way that we achieve this look is if you think straight out from your face, go up 45 degree angle and then off to a 45 degree angle. That is usually the perfect spot for a light. Now, I'm not suggesting that you take a lamp with you to every property, but where this can come in handy is to set up a lamp at home for any video conferencing you're doing, or if you're regularly doing videos at home, this can be a really great idea too. The time of day that you select to film a property is also critically important. If you're primarily planning to film outdoors, you really want to make use of the time around sunset or the time around sunrise. We recommend an hour and a half to half an hour before sunset. The reason for this is that this provides the most beautiful and most balanced and even sunlight that's available throughout the day. Oftentimes you'll hear people recommend the golden hour, which is technically the hour before sunset, but I find, and I will demonstrate in a second, that the last half an hour of that time is usually too dark. So I recommend starting half an hour before that to make the best use of that natural light. If it's an overcast day, which we have many of in Vancouver, it can be a really ideal time to film outdoors or to film, or I should say specifically to film on a balcony. That's because the clouds act like a ginormous lampshade that will diffuse the light and remove any deep shadows that might occur on your face. However, shooting inside of a property can be a little bit different. And if we remember back to the beginning of this video with the selfie, we really do often have to make a choice between seeing easily outside versus seeing easily inside. If the view of the property is of critical importance, I'm going to recommend sticking to these exterior guidelines of the hour and a half to half an hour before sunset. However, if the view is distracting, if the view is unattractive, you might actually want to film at a time when there's a lot of bright sun outside in order to hide that view. Additionally, if you were in, for example, a garden level apartment with smaller windows, you might want to maximize the amount of outdoor light in order to be able to see the interior of the property as best as possible. When that time is really differs depending on where the property is and which way it's turned and where the windows are. It's difficult to give you an easy guideline of when to do that. Obviously, noon tends to have a lot of sun, the noon to 4 region, for example. However, I would recommend asking the property owner when the property has the most light, or if they don't know that when the property is the warmest, because that will give you a sense of when the most sunlight is coming into the property, and you can choose to film then. This really is a trade-off, and it's up to you to decide what will work best for the property. Here's an example on the left-hand side of photographing during a bright sun moment. You can see it is very difficult to see outside the view. Again, this could be an advantage if you don't want to show off the view, but it could also be a big disadvantage if you want to see outside these windows. On the right-hand side, you can see a sunset shot in the exact same spot. Of course, all of the interior lights are off just to demonstrate this for you. And if you're filming or photographing in this last 30 minutes of sunset, you can really have a difficult time seeing the property. And that's why I recommend something in the middle, closer to sunset. And in fact, this could have been a bit closer to sunset, so we could see a bit more out the window, but still very easily see indoors. There is that trade-off though, and sometimes you only have access to a property at a specific time, so it's really up to you to decide what works for you. I would recommend, however, to pull out your phone throughout the day today, take some photos in the afternoon, in the early evening, and around sunset, and see for yourself both what your skin looks like in that type of lighting as well as what the property looks like. That's going to give you a really good sense of what's going to work best. Good luck, and let me know if you have any questions.